Do we look scary? That was amazing.
I gotta say, that was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done, I think, or at least cool, one of the coolest things I ever saw.
Forget your foregone conclusions. Settle in, settle now. Give up your sweet illusion.
We recently visited Carlsbad Caverns National Park, and boy were we surprised. I wanted to go, well, we wanted to go to hike the caverns. He wanted to go to see the bats.
The bats are really, really cool.
The bats were really cool. And we also have a nice little surprise that we want to share with you that we wish more national parks offered, because it was a great service.
Yeah, but before we get into the actual national park, let's talk a little bit about where it's located. So Carlsbad Caverns is located just outside of Carlsbad, New Mexico. Carlsbad, New Mexico is in the southeast corner of New Mexico. It's basically a desert town. There's not too much going on there, but it's a great place to set up a base camp if you want to go see Carlsbad Carlsbad Caverns National Park. Now, we stayed at a campground called Carlsbad RV Park and Campground. We really enjoyed it. I think it was, well, I know it was extremely clean. We had a huge site.
Yeah, we did.
No problems at all. It's a typical what you'd expect in a desert for a campground. A lot of rocks.
You're in the desert.
Colored rocks on the ground, cactus in there, and small shrubs. A little bit of shade trees, but not a whole lot. Now, there are a couple other campgrounds in the town of Carlsbad. However, we found out they probably weren't the best. As a matter of fact,
one of our neighbors told us that he stayed at one of the other campgrounds for one night only, was not impressed or happy, and came over to the campground where we were.
Take that for what it's worth. But anyway, it's worth checking out. Now, the Carlsbad Caverns National Park is about 20 miles southwest of the town of Carlsbad. As a matter of fact, Guadalupe National Park is probably just another 45 minutes southwest from there. So you could actually hit 2 national parks in one time. But Carlsbad Caverns, there's really just a couple reasons that most people go there. One is to go into the caverns, of course, and they also have a bat flight program where you get to watch these bats come out of the caverns, and we'll talk about that a little bit too, which I thought was just totally cool. But if you're gonna go into the caverns, there's a few things that you just have to be aware of. Now, what we did is we went to the National Park Service website, read up about the national park before we went there. They do suggest proper clothing. Oh boy, I think she's sleep deprived. The main thing though is proper footwear. You want closed-toed shoes and a really good grip. Like if you had like hiking shoes or something like that, something with a good grip. A lot of these trails, even though they're paved underground, they're they can be slippery. Parts of them are wet.
They're steep.
And they're extremely steep. There's one part you're actually going down 750 feet. So it's within about a mile and a quarter. So it's a pretty steep
And the
trail.
water comes from just the natural rock.
So you never know. I guess it depends on the time of year. It could be more water or not. So definitely a good pair of shoes. Now, when we went in, I just know from the past that most caves are a little chilly. And I think they have a constant temperature of 72 degrees or something like that. So I did wear my fleece jacket, and I think you had a little.
But it was cool outside, so it was
extremely
cool when we first got
outside.
there. This is fun, really fun.
We're trying to get down to the natural cave entrance, but
it's a jolt.
It's a hurricane out here, and it's raining and it's cold.
But after walking around a while, we
definitely warmed up quite a bit. If I was to do this again, I think just a windbreaker would have been plenty, and we would have been happy with that. So,
before we forget, I wanted to mention pets are not allowed in the caverns or on the hiking trails. I believe they're not allowed.
I don't think they were, but that does bring up the point that
the nice
you liked.
surprise.
Yeah.
When we were driving up to the entrance, we saw a sign for dog kennels, and we were like, how cool is that? And we didn't check out the kennels at all because Rodeo wasn't with us. We knew pets weren't allowed. But I mean, if you had to take your pet where you could take a break and go check on them or whatever, you didn't want to leave them at your camper for however long. What a nice service. And we've never seen that. So far in our travels, we've never seen that offered. And I thought that was just fantastic.
So like Dina said, we didn't have Rodeo with us, so we didn't check out the kennel itself. But if you're going there, definitely worthwhile checking out. Go to the website and read up about it. Make sure they might be closed certain times a year. We really don't know. But so some of the other things the website tells you to do or kind of suggest is plenty of water.
Yes.
We were kind of surprised how much water we went through.
Yes.
So plenty of water. And this is something you are allowed to bring a flashlight in there and use them whenever you want. Yeah. That's what we did. We had a flashlight. Looking back, I really wish we would have wore hiking headlamps. It would have been perfect for that. There's a lot of times where we're juggling camera equipment and flashlights at the same time, and it just...
I'm still trying to figure out, why didn't we bring our day pack?
Didn't even think about it.
Yeah, we even for whatever reason.
Didn't even bring a day pack. A day pack would be great because we could have taken our jackets off.
Right.
And we would have been good to go.
Well, we made it to Carlsbad Caverns. We're going down.
We're going to try the natural entrance tour. It's a little bit outside. It's like a 2.5 mile round trip hike, but I guess you could take elevators down if you want, but you miss basically half the caverns. Now let's get a little bit into some of your options for going into the caverns. There's a guided ranger tour or a self-guided tour. But no matter which one you choose, when we were there, they had timed entries. So what that means is you can't just go up into to the national park and go jump down into the cavern and start walking around. They only allow so many people in there at a time. Now what they want you to do is to go to recreation.gov, put in for your timed entry a certain time. I think it's like $1 to kind of hold that. And then when you get to the visitor center, you actually have to go there. They look you up and you have to pay for your entrance fee. I think it's like $15 a person to go into the caverns. If you're a kid, I believe 16 and under, they were free. But now they may not do this all year round. I know when we were there, they definitely had a timed entry. We were actually kind of fortunate. We didn't know about it.
Right.
And we're actually, I think the day we went, it was just kind of on a whim. And we went in there and go, hey, let's see if we can get in. And we went up there and they did have some openings. Yeah. So we were able to get in. But
and the bats are free.
Yeah, they do have bat flight programs we'll talk about in a second. And that's free. You don't have to pay for that. And that's definitely worth it.
Right.
So one of the ways to do a tour is a guided ranger tour. And this is really if you wanted to learn more about the history, the rocks, and all the formations and stuff like that. That's probably the way you would probably want to go. Right. The most popular guided tour is called the King's Palace Tour. It's about an hour and a half long. It's about an hour hike. I think it's just a big circle, all it is. And it actually takes you to the deepest part of the cavern, or the deepest part that the public can go to, which is about 830 feet below the surface. So you're down there a pretty good ways. Again, for that you do have to have a timed entry permit. And I believe they only have 24 people on these tours as well. So if this is something you think you may want to do or check into, just be aware there's only 24 openings. So it is something you'd probably want to reserve sooner than later. Now if you're like us, we kind of prefer to do things on our own, so we did a self-guided tour. And you have a couple options for this. You can do the big room self-guided tour or the natural entrance self-guided tour. We actually did the natural entrance, which we really enjoyed. You get to see a lot more of the cave. But the big room tour, again, something you can do on your own. They have an elevator, and this elevator goes down like 750 feet to the big room. When you get to the bottom of the elevator, there is some restrooms down there, I think a little snack bar down there as well. But it puts you into the big room, the main room of the cavern. This is a big loop you can walk through. It's about 1.25 miles long.
Yeah.
I think they suggest, an hour or so to walk it.
Right.
And do it. It's fairly flat at that point.
Yeah. I think this is nice to have for people that can't do the natural entrance hike,
which is a little bit more strenuous.
It is strenuous, and we saw a man with a cane, somebody with a walker, and I think we saw someone with a wheelchair at the very end.
So the nice thing with the big room self-guided tour, it's just basically a big loop, and you get down there via an elevator, so you don't have to do the whole loop. If you're not able to. You can just see what you want to see and come back. So it's definitely if there's any restrictions, it's definitely, you don't let that stop you from seeing the cave.
Because it is cool.
Yeah, it really is. Now what we did the natural entrance, and what this is, it's the natural entrance. So you actually have to walk out of the visitor center maybe just over a quarter mile away to basically just a big hole in the ground. It's an entrance. You go down a whole bunch of stairs into the cave, but what we really liked about this was the natural entrance. That's again about 1.25 miles long, and that's also goes down like 750 feet. So you're going down quite a ways. You get to see a whole 1.25 miles of the cave, and then that takes you into the big room, or the main room, which we just talked about. So you can actually do both of them as long as you have time. This is, again, it's like 1.25 miles long. I think we really took our time because we really enjoyed it. It probably took us maybe 2 hours, I think, to get through it. But it was really neat. Okay, we made it down from the natural entrance. We just made it past the twilight zone, which is, there's still a little bit of sunlight that comes in, and we're getting into the dark zone. But
into the dark zone. Do that again.
But it looks pretty cool. We're starting to see some stalactites and
this is a good Halloween video.
Oh, we're scary enough as it is anyways. All right, we're going deeper into the cave.
Help!
Forget your foregone conclusions.
This is a really cool cave.
Yeah,
it is
really
huge.
Fun.
It is so different than anything else we've seen before.
Yeah, so different than one cave. The smell, everything.
It's just different. So this is cool. This is definitely worth the stop.
Yeah.
So. We're trying to get through this because we're going to close this big room. But
before we get to the pool,
I gotta admit,
we gotta see the pool.
Yeah, it's hard. This place is unbelievable.
You don't want to rush through it.
I keep turning the camera off to save the battery, but I keep turning. It's like every 5 feet you go, there's not a bad view. It's just unbelievable.
It is.
I would recommend this cave to anybody. This is
pretty cool.
This is really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, Dina doesn't like caves, and she's really enjoying this one. though. This is pretty amazing. So something else to be aware of: the big room, at least when we were there, it closed at 4 p.m. or at least they start getting people out at 4 o'clock. You're not allowed to go in there after 4. And what happens is, we were actually one of the last ones, and the park rangers will actually start walking around and kind of politely
pushing you out.
Yeah.
Politely pushing.
We could have spent more time in the cave, I think. It was honestly that cool. I kept telling Dean, I feel like I'm in a Dr. Seuss book because the formations and just
everything
it was just
to see
totally,
and take
totally
in
amazing.
was just crazy.
But it was really cool.
It was cool.
So that's called the natural entrance, and we really enjoyed that.
Yep, very much.
Now to top all of this off, they have what's called the Bat Flight Program. So apparently what happens is, you got a whole bunch of these bats that live in the cave, and they come out between, I believe it's May and August
Yep.
for the majority. I guess that's the heavy part. They'll come out at sunset. They'll come out of the cave. Basically, they go out and they fly around and eat up all the little bugs, and they come back again first thing in the morning. But this, I've never seen anything like this before in my life. You're literally sitting in the, I don't want to call them bleachers, but stands made out of rock, and you're facing down the entrance of the cave. The park ranger starts talking about bats and give you some history and stuff like that. It's like an outdoor
amphitheater type thing.
They start talking, but as soon as the bats start flying, everybody gets quiet. Now they are extremely strict on no electronics. That's why you're not going to see any close-ups in this video of the bats. There's no electronics at all. They will actually, kick you out.
They ask you to turn your phones off.
They want you to turn your phones off. Apparently, the bats are extremely sensitive to electronics. So, hopefully everybody
messes up their navigation patterns and just makes them confused and stuff.
You know how the national park, they don't want to mess with the animals at all, which I think is pretty cool. So no electronics at all. Just be prepared for that. If you're wanting to go and take video or something, you're really not going to be able to.
The only thing I wanted to say is the only thing that kept going through my mind watching these thousands and thousands of bats fly out of this cavern that we just hiked was. We just hiked that whole, and they're coming out of that cave,
so
the mouth where we went in. I'm like,
to give you an example of the number of bats, and we talked to the park ranger after we were getting ready to leave. We sat down at about 5:30, kind of getting ready for like the ranger to talk. He talked for a little bit. Just after 6 p.m., about 5 minutes after 6, the bats started to come out of the cave. Everybody got quiet. We sat there and watched and watched and watched. At 6:45, they were still pouring out of the cave, but it was getting dark enough where you couldn't quite see them.
They weren't quite as heavy.
They did start to slow down.
Yeah, they slowed down towards the end.
The park ranger told us, however they do this, they estimated over 500,000 bats came out of the cave that night. 500,000 bats.
Crazy.
It was unbelievable. Non-stop bats.
Creepy.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
And it was cool. It was creepy.
Yeah. So what I had to do, I did get a little bit of footage of the bats, but what I had to do was I went back the next day. I stayed up in the parking lot. You are allowed to take footage from the parking lot. However, you're probably 300 or 400 yards away from the opening. Unbelievable. So it's really
you actually talked to the ranger about that before you went back the next day. You kind of got approval that it was going to be okay to do from the parking lot.
So that's really like the only place you can do it.
Right.
If you find stuff like this entertaining or helpful, please subscribe to our channel, and please also make sure you hit the like button. It really lets YouTube know that people are watching our videos as well.
And we appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching our video. We hope that you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed sharing it with you. We hope you have a great week and stay safe.
Remember, always live life to the fullest.
Safe travels and God bless.